We're one of the same kind, you and I. I'm glad to have met you.
If it's malachite you're after, you've come to the right place. I'll pay for any you dig up out of Steam-Scorch Mine. Aye. You took its very soul. I never would have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. So it seems the milk drinkers were right. That dragon was nearly the death of us. All we can do now is rebuild. Until next time.
By the gods, I don't even know what to say.
It's really dead, then? Until next time.
I never would have believed it if I hadn't seen it with my own eyes. Nosy one, huh? I was a mage back in Morrowind. I lend my talents to the mines here, helping them keep the tunnels safe. By Azura, it gets hot in there. I use frost salts for a potion to keep the heat bearable, but I'm out. If you want to go to the trouble, feel free. I suppose I could offer you a bit of free alteration training when you get back. All right, then.
It may be dead now, but where did it come from?
It's really dead, then?
By the gods, I don't even know what to say.
My pa runs this town, and you're going to be in big trouble if you mess with me.
Speak. With 3 bears down, the orc did frown, and bid the elf goodbye. For none could know 'twas not for show, and someone had to die. What do you want? Come to gawk at the Knight of Thorns? Well, here I am, for your viewing pleasure. Where's my dignity? Why, it's in Cyrodiil, where I left it, in the blood-stained robe of the Countess of Shadenhall. The same Countess who held me close to her side like a maiden clutches a rose. I am that most unworthy of fiends, you see. A liar, a betrayer, a turncoat.
Did the bees need to be happy?
Of course.
Yes, and she survived. Such is the depth of my failure. In fact, so pathetic am I that the Countess chose to exile me rather than take my head. One final insult for the Knight of Thorns, to be pitied rather than scorned. Some called me the White Rose. A paladin in pure white armor, said to be painted by a soul that was the very same. Ugh. I deceived all of Cyrodiil with my feats of valor. The liberation of Fort Farragut, the vanquishing of the warlocks of Quickwater Cave. All a ruse, an unctuous gambit to earn the trust of the fair Countess. Then, without cause, motive, or provocation, I stabbed her in the chest. Thank the divines, the steward was there to witness the entire deed, and to provide the Countess with the health potion that saved her life. Of course, he never saw my face, but there was no mistaking my armor, and no mistaking the petals of blood that stained its chest plate. So it was obviously I who, jealous over her love of the Count, clumsily stabbed the woman I was sworn to protect. No, of course not. The steward was a fine Argonian gentleman who despised Dunmer with every fibre of his being. Such a paragon of honor acted only in the best interests of the court. Oh, and that underground hissed sap operation he was rumored to have funded? Lies! Lies perpetuated by the Knight of Thorns! After all, I tried to assassinate the Countess. How in Azora can my word be trusted? You sound like someone I once knew. He walked the path of righteousness, and lived only to serve with honor. For the integrity of the court, the Count, and the Countess, he played the role that has been cast. For their sake, he let the lie become truth. He believed that to live in dishonor is the only honorable path he had left. And when he died, perhaps the gods would exonerate him and let him walk once more amongst the roses. But that's an idyllic answer, and I suspect the very same one a certain traitor used to deceive the fools in Shadenhall. For who can trust the words of the Knight of Thorns, Tamriel's most reviled turncoat? Now leave me be.
Now here's a man I'm glad to see.
Make it quick. Why, certainly. That night I was drinking and whoring as I usually did, after spending the morning pretending to be chaste. Then I donned my helm, and in full armor, I stumbled over to the Countess's chambers, sending the guards on an assignment to oblivion. I pounded the door of her bedchamber, awaking the Countess. "Urgent business," I said. "Is the Count with you?"
But Papa was going to take me hunting tomorrow.
I don't think you're old enough
She
for that
told
yet.
me the
You can
Count
help
was in
himself to
Bruma,
cheese curd.
discussing
can't
some
throw
sort
it?
of territorial
Because I'm telling
dispute
you
over
to.
the Countess's buttocks. Then I told her that I had good news and bad news. The good news was she wouldn't be in pain for long. Then I gave her the bad news. When I was finished, I did what most traitors do. I defiled the corpse and then laughed maniacally before returning to my bedchamber for a nap.
She's a girl. She cried.
It's good to toughen her up. Not an easy world out here. Keep at it.
Oh? And who is to say what is true and untrue? The Count Steward, that's who. Unless you are him, then it does not matter what you think. Why indeed? Why not my ancestral home of Morrowind? The land which the Countess herself assured I would be escorted to. It was no doubt a mistake that I found myself being marched up the face of the Gerald Mountains, blades of snow slicing against my brow. Pure accident that my brothers and sisters, members of the Order of the Rose, ushered me down an unmarked road and tossed me into a tiny alcove. I remember chipping a tooth when I hit the ground. The dirt was frozen solid, so hard that even the wormwood refused to grow. Yet what it lacked in flora, it made up for in bones. It was an ogre's hunting grounds, and my grave. I laid in that fallow pit for an entire night, waiting for my death, welcoming it. And then, as the hour grew darkest, I thought the snow had finally begun to recede. Only when I looked up, I found it had gathered on the back of the biggest, ugliest ogre I had ever seen. And did the Countess have a weapon when I used her like a scabbard? No. The manner of death they chose for me was appropriate. But the executioner was reluctant. Even the ogre found my mendacity distasteful. The dumb brute stared at me for what seemed like hours, before letting out a grunt and chewing on the goat carcass that he dragged to the alcove. If that wasn't humiliating enough, he proceeded to tear out a chunk of flesh and offer it to me like I was a pet. I lacked the courage to refuse. I sank my teeth into the meat like a feral dog and let its blood restore my vitality. Rather than face my death with honor, the next morning I used that strength to flee north, crossing the border to Skyrim. Yes, that was an order founded by a previous count, Fareloth, one of the heroes of the Oblivion Crisis. At one point, however, one of his descendants, who disliked the thorny sigil, decided to alter it to suit her tastes. She was fond of roses. So the Knights of the Thorn became the Order of the Roses, fighters chosen as much for their incorruptible honor as their skill in battle. We swore an oath to more than the Count. We swore to uphold the very essence of virtue. We were the unsullied, the unspoiled. Every single member arose without a thorn. That is who you speak with. An elf who betrayed not just the Countess, not just her ancestors, but the very ideal of what a knight aspires to be. We did more than obey the laws of gods and men. To fight lust, we swore an oath of celibacy. To fight indolence, we promised to be punctual. To fight passion, we refused to drink. And to fight greed, we often shared our spoils with the townsfolk. We were more than just honorable, more than mere knights. We were immaculate. Emphasis on the word were. The Knight of Thorns does not smell like a rose. He is a poisonous vine, and his touch is venom. Right. You want me to return to Cyrodiil, embarrass the court and the order, and risk my own execution? Well, on the one hand, there's a chance I may reclaim my honor. On the other hand, I am tired, and would rather suckle on this flagon of mead. We did more to fight. We... Emphasis. Redemption? Are you mad? I am the Knight of Thorns. I nearly murdered a countess. Washing that stain is not as simple as killing a few bandits. And if I am not corrupt, that would mean that my brothers and sisters sent an innocent knight to death. That is preposterous. For as you can clearly see, I am a boorish fool who will cover your face in spittle and your tunic in blood. We were... Emphasis on the word were. Yes, there were always some who doubted my integrity. They couldn't believe I was a gentle, humble knight who took pride in acting with grace. And they were right. As you can plainly see, I am a rube, a filthy, ill-tempered barbarian who cares more for liquor than breath. Emphasis. I agree wholeheartedly. The knights would say a mortal does not need love when he has loyalty, or wine when he has humor. Utter foolishness. There is only one thing humorous about the Order of the Rose. Their creed. And the only real loyalty in this world is the contract a pint of mead makes with your stomach. One warm body in exchange for one night of happiness. Or was that the whore's contract? I can't seem to recall which is which. Be gone.
I hope you'll stay for a bit. We could certainly use the business.
Greetings, a fine day to you. Thank you, friend, and the same to you. It is indeed a splendid day, the kind normally reserved for dreams, fantasies, and my cousin Gelda. Ah, the divines are good to her. Actually, I'm not in a good mood, but a normal one. I'm not the type to detour from bliss. My mind is only capable of one type of thinking, the positive kind. Which is why it came as a shock to hear one of my friends accuse me of being, quote, less than courteous to him during a chance meeting in Skyrim. It turns out that he had the displeasure of meeting my doppelganger, though I myself have never been this far north. According to him, this Altmare wore my face as if it were a tunic, and summoned my voice as if it were a spell. Only he failed to use them in the manner for which they were crafted. He was rude, salty, and threatened my friend with bodily harm. In other words, he was strong. He was brave. For a sworn coward such as myself, I was rather intrigued at the prospect of meeting such a fellow. Well, I consider that a victory. In my youth, my skin was anything but golden, and the pimples and blackheads spent each day fighting for space. I looked more like a Dremora than an elf. Do you mean separated at birth, like in the mirror? That would be something. Berdier-Weyans is my favorite author, after all. I have always wanted a seventh brother. No offense to the 6 I already have. They are all wonderful. However, lately, I have been entertaining another theory. What if we weren't separated by birth, but by choice? What if we're the same person, having led different lives? Two Altmer of identical physical makeup, parting ways at one of life's many forks. The result is two vastly different personas, Skyrim having shaped him as much as the Somerset Isles have shaped me. Yes, if you think about it, we all start from the same place, a womb. From birth, life is nothing but a series of forks. We may choose the path of the warrior, the farmer, or the priest. We may choose to live in a village or in the shadow of a great keep. We can choose to spend our nights in the comforting arms of our beloved, or behind the hot, sweaty doors of a brothel. What choices did my counterpart make? And not make? Did he come to Skyrim for war, for greed, or for love? I'd start by asking him about his personal history, see where our paths diverged. If our resemblance is truly as uncanny as my friend proposed, then I'm sure he will be as eager to hear about my life as well. I confess I hadn't thought that far. I can't envision a scenario where he's not at the very least curious. And given his associations, I imagine he would welcome any friendly face, not to mention a familiar one. Yes, he was staying here at the Braidwood Inn. That's why I get nervous when the doors of the inn swing open. None more so than the first time. I thought, how would I introduce myself? Would I even recognize him? How many of us would recognize our own face if we saw it outside the mirror? It was silly in retrospect. With the war, trying to find a Thalmor in Eastmarch is like picking your nose to wipe your bottom. So I decided instead to enjoy the ambiance. I found a table and looked up at the vaulted ceilings. All that space, and the inn still feels cozy. I was curious as to how they light the chandeliers, given how high they are, so I called the innkeeper's wife over to ask her. Yet, before I could say anything, the first words out of Idra's mouth were, "Oh, you're back. Do you want the usual?" I nodded yes, and sheepishly hid my face in my shoulders as she brought a pint of Blackbriar mead and a salmon steak. Positively sublime. It was, quite frankly, the most scrumptious meal I have ever tasted, and the portions were just right. I felt full, but not sluggish. And the mead. Something about the honey they use here. It was brilliant. It was then that I realized my doppelganger and I share more than just a face. I wonder if he too has a deep, inexplicable fear of owls. This might sound strange, but I knew I was safe. I knew he treated Nords here with respect, because that is exactly what I would have done. No. Evidently, he came here alone, drank alone, and suffered no company. I wondered if this meant he was sad, lonely, or bitter. Yet, talking with Idra, it seems he was not at all temperamental, save the time he was accosted by my friend. I like to think that he limited his interaction with the locals because he knew war was on the horizon. He understood how much more difficult the fighting would become when your friends are on the other side. You know, We Altmer have selectively bred for centuries, in order to maintain a resemblance to our ancestors. In this regard, it is quite accurate to say that many of us do look alike. I am beginning to wonder, however, if there is a point to any of it. What matters is not that we look like the Aldmer, but that we act like them. That is the true bond that links me to my doppelganger. They are an eclectic bunch, and excellent company. I know I should be continuing my search in solitude, but I can't seem to pull myself away. They call the Dark Elf a stone weaver, for she knits the mind together like a quilt to ward off the heat from the surrounding earth streams. I have yet to meet her or learn her name. The truth is, I find her a bit intimidating. Keld owns the inn and Idra works it. I've heard that he enjoys taking long trips, but never includes his wife. I'm sure the rumors regarding his mistress are false. After all, look at me. Not every spouse who leaves on a journey does so nefariously. Although I did hear he made advances on the Dark Elf before. Purely in jest, I hope. Ghana and Gemma said they tried talking to my double on a number of occasions with little response. They hail from Cyrodiil and are loyal to the Empire. I wonder, though, after this is all over, if there will still be an Empire to be loyal to. Raji is a kind, down-to-earth Nord who loves his mead and his homeland. He's also what you call a very literal person. He hails from the clan Knotbeard, so he ties his beard in a knot. Keld the Younger is a feisty little child, and he often takes it out on his sister Froa. Ah, what can you do? Boys will be boys. Not a regret, but curiosity. It was decades ago that I received that promotion to serve in Skyrim as an emissary to the High King. I rushed home to my wife that night, eager to tell her the big news. She said she had the same. I told her to go first. She always did. Had I went first, maybe I wouldn't own a spice shop in the Shimmerine, or know the names of every passerby who comes to greet me on Sunday morning. I wouldn't have those days on the beach with my son, wishing I could bottle up his laughter as if there were nothing more precious in the world. It all changed when my wife went first, when she brought my hand to her stomach and I felt it kick. At that moment, I forgot what I had come home to say. I didn't want him to grow up around war, so I left the Thalmor to start a spice business. It wasn't easy with the embargoes imposed by Hammerfell. The choice I made left me with little money, long days, and sleepless nights. And yet I have never felt so wealthy. That's a good question, one that I've wrestled with since I boarded that ship to Windhelm. When I was a child, I dreamt of becoming a Justicar. Like most Altmer children, I'd heard the tales of their heroism during the Oblivion Crisis. How Erendil of Cloudrest vanquished 100 Daedra in as many hours, and the tale of the Golden Seven, who uncovered the plot by the traitor Ryandor. My skills in combat, however, relegated me to a life dreaming of battle as opposed to participating in them. Yet my passion for the subject was such that I sought other avenues. I trained to become a master tactician, be the playwright instead of the actor. Only life intervened, I knew I couldn't raise my son in a foreign land, and I could never abandon him the way my father abandoned me. Still, I can't help but wonder how my life would be different had I been free to pursue my dream. In truth, stranger, I have not come here to validate my own choice. I have come here to validate his. Farewell. Oh, not farewell, but till we meet again.
My pa runs this town, and you're going to be in big trouble if you mess with me.
Speak. What is it? Away with you.
Why are you still here?
Well, this is really quite a nice town when you get down to it. Just look at the view. Here, take a look at this. Some of the Jarl's men came by and left this bounty letter. All right, then. Don't even think about it.
Good day to you, friend.
Came here to start a lumber mill. Who knew the Nords cared about a bunch of old trees?
Wouldn't even be here if it weren't for my idiot sister. I can't believe she dragged me all the way to this snowball. I'd rather be broke in Cyrodiil than broke here.
Not all the passions are virtuous. Greed, lust, and rage, to name a few. But those are the obvious ones. Guilt is the one people often forget, because it always comes after the others.
Oh, what a clever thief you are.
Thanks again for helping reopen the East Empire Company. And have them import me some of the aged Repton cheese.
Morrowind used to be a lovely place, but you couldn't pay me to live there these days.
Releasing a captured dragon. I don't think I'll ever understand that one.
Honor to you, my Thane.
They say wood elves learn to climb trees before they crawl, and jump before they walk. Skyrim isn't a foreign land, the ground is.
How can I help a brother know?
Morrowind used to be a lovely place, but you couldn't pay me to live there these days. Well, well, you actually did what you said you were going to do. I'm impressed. Here, let me teach you a thing or two about alteration magic. It's the least I can do. Safe travels.